Hi, I'm Sam Hawley, coming to you from Gadigal Land. This is ABC News Daily. Almost 400,000 Australians have dementia, so chances are you either have it or you know someone who does. So this week's news, an experimental drug has been found to modestly slow the most common form of the disease, Alzheimer's, may have sparked your interest. Today, an expert in the field, Yen-Ying Lim from Monash University, on how the drug works and how soon patients here might have access to it. Professor Lim, this is a pretty exciting scientific moment. Just give me your reaction when you heard it.
It's pretty exciting. I think the gain in this kind of momentum is incredible.
The findings of a major new study are being hailed as a turning point in the fight against Alzheimer's disease.
For decades, treatments have eluded researchers, but a global clinical trial has confirmed one of the drugs can slow the pace of the disease.
So I would regard this as the end of the beginning in Alzheimer's therapies. This is absolutely a breakthrough. I know the word breakthrough is used perhaps a little too often, but this is a major breakthrough.
It wasn't too long ago that, we were seeing drug after drug fail, and certainly a lot of us in the field were starting to feel a bit like, what's going to happen? Like, are people going to start pulling out investment in this very, very important disease? So it's great to see some progress. And we're all sort of waiting with both a mix of anxiety but also excitement, certainly, about what this might mean for the field.
Yeah, it brings hope, I'm sure, to so many people. I think something like 1 in 10 Australians over the age of 65 have Alzheimer's, and those numbers keep growing, don't they?
Yes, it keeps growing because the number of people turning 60 and above keeps growing, right? So as the baby boomer generation begin to enter that stage of life where Alzheimer's disease really does become a massive concern, the number of them grows, and so the number of people with Alzheimer's disease also grows.
All right, so let's have a look at this trial, at this exciting news from this trial and this new drug, donanemab. Tell me about that. What is it?
So donanemab is a monoclonal antibody. It was tested in people with early Alzheimer's disease, so people with mild dementia or what we call mild cognitive impairment. And so these are the precursors to sort of full-blown severe dementia. And what it showed was that it was able to reduce amyloid. So amyloid is one of the key proteins in the brain for Alzheimer's disease. It reduced amyloid very, very effectively. But what it also did, more importantly, was that it also slowed what we call clinical disease progression by about 36%. And so clinical disease progression in this trial was defined through a combination of cognition, so memory and thinking ability, and also daily function, so ability to conduct your everyday activities. And this is really important for people with Alzheimer's disease.
Just describe amyloid a bit more for me. So that's a protein, is it on the brain, that people with Alzheimer's have a lot of?
So amyloid proteins, or the beta amyloid protein, are these aggregates in the brain. They aggregate into sticky clumps called amyloid plaques. And they are one of the key hallmarks and one of the earliest hallmarks of somebody who might be at risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Amyloid develops over a really, really long period of time. Slowly, it accumulates over time. There are brain mechanisms that clear amyloid from our brain naturally. But in people who do go on to develop Alzheimer's disease, for one reason or another, this amyloid accumulates and is unable to be cleared from the brain.
Right.
And so what this drug does is it helps in that clearance.
So it helps to get rid of the amyloid out of the brain, reducing the severity of the Alzheimer's.
Exactly.
Just tell me about the study. How did they test this?
So about 1,700 participants were involved in the study, so 1,736 to be precise. Mm-hmm. And they looked at this over a period of 76 weeks.
Right, okay.
So an 18-month trial, and people were randomized, so like tossing a coin, to a 1-to-1 ratio. So they either were randomized to receiving the placebo or to receiving drug. And the drug was delivered intravenously every 4 weeks for 72 weeks.
I can see some of the people involved in this trial in the United States quoted as just saying it's changed their lives. There was one woman I saw who had to stop work and she can actually work again. It's incredible.
It is incredible when you hear these stories. It really does, fuel you to do better. So donanemab is the most recent one, but a week ago, Eisai's lecanemab received full FDA traditional approval. Lecanemab is also a monoclonal antibody that binds to amyloid, clears it from the brains, and it also showed a reduction in both amyloid in the brain, but also it slowed clinical disease progression by about 27%.
Joan Murtagh, she's an American woman I saw that's been taking that drug, and it's really, really helped her.
Sometimes there's a word or something that I'm trying to recall, and I can't think of it, but now if I just give it a minute, it pops into my head. It's so good. I mean, it just feels so good.
We now have 2 drugs that, show this really positive result, not just on amyloid, but also on the endpoint or the outcome that is most important to patients and families, which is their ability to function in everyday life. Right. So, it's exciting. I mean, it looks like the US might have 2 drugs on market by the end of the year, which is incredible. Yes. I mean, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I was going to ask, that's the big question now, isn't it, for people with Alzheimer's, their families. How quickly do you think here the Therapeutic Goods Administration will move on this?
Given the significant public health issue it is, I'm sure that, they are considering this providing it with its utmost importance. They're expediting the process, I'm sure, in some way. But I don't have any insights into how long it might take the TGA to approve it. I do know that lecanemab is currently under consideration with the TGA. Of course, there is no guarantee that it will be approved in Australia because the TGA does do its own independent review separate from the FDA.
But how safe is it? Is there any side effects, anything that we should worry about?
These drugs aren't perfect by any means. There are significant side effects that we need to consider. So brain bleeds can often be quite serious and need to be monitored very closely, like regular brain scans to monitor, the reaction to the drug. And then the other consideration too is that, some people, for example, if they have higher genetic risk, they may be more vulnerable to these severe side effects. And then some people might show less benefit to these treatments as well. So there's still a lot to figure out. They usually come with very high costs. So at the moment, lecanemab costs about $27,000 which is about 39,000 Australian dollars annually. I don't think donanemab has been announced just yet. So even if these drugs are approved by the TGA, it will still need to be considered by the PBS with regards to whether it would be covered. Otherwise it would be available privately only.
So it could be really expensive if it's not covered by the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme. So do you have to keep taking the drug once the amyloid is removed from the brain, or is it removed for good?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I think longer term studies are needed. So, these studies have been run for 18 months. And so, what happens to those people, right? Once they finish that 18-month treatment, does it stay low or does it continue to accumulate back up again? If I were to take a guess, and we don't currently sort of have any solid data to support this at the moment, but if I were to take an educated guess about what would happen, is that level of amyloid will likely stay quite low for a while, because we know that amyloid takes a really long time to accumulate. And so if you're somebody already in your mid-70s and you take this drug, it reduces your level of amyloid. It is unlikely that level of amyloid will rise so rapidly in the next, say, 10 years or so.
Australian woman and grandmother Jan Cody, she has Alzheimer's and it's been really difficult for her.
I just accepted it all and I just thought, well, now this is the new way. Yeah, I'm just wondering if I had to cry. I could cry now. But
she says this drug, even though she hasn't been part of the trial and she hasn't been able to use it yet, it has been giving her some hope.
Of my I know for me, in my late 70s, I'm not really going to get the best, fullest result of what I'll be doing. But I've said from day dot, what I want is my kids to be not where I'm going. Yeah. And that's what now we've heard about in the last 24 hours, which is absolutely fantastic.
And Professor Lim, the future for people with Alzheimer's here in Australia and around the world, this is a big deal for them, and I gather the science is just going to keep getting better.
Exactly. I think we're all the scientists who work on Alzheimer's disease, I think, are excited by this, because it means it will generate more interest in the disease and hopefully will gain more momentum. I think we have reached a turning point in this fight against Alzheimer's disease. I think, we now have the job of making these drugs better, making it more personalized. And I like to always say that the first cancer therapies were not perfect either. We can improve on them from here.
Yen Ying Lim is an associate professor at the Turner Institute for Brain and Mental Health at Monash University. 16 Australians took part in the trial at 8 sites in Victoria and New South Wales. This episode was produced by Veronica App, Flint Duxfield, Sam Dunn and Anna John, who also did the mix. Our supervising producer is David Cody. I'm Sam Hawley. To get in touch with the team, email us on abcnews@abc.net.au. Thanks for listening.
Subscribe to listen to more free podcasts or download the ABC Listen app and stream ad-free.